difficult decisions for NHS bosses, considering controversial ways to cope with rising energy bills. As inflation edges over 10%, many of us are concerned about household bills. But is it any less worrying for big public organisations? Some NHS hospitals are seeing their energy costs go up by millions of pounds at a time when their budgets are already under pressure. So what difficult choices are they having to make? Our health correspondent Alistair Fee has been to University Hospitals Dorset. UHD runs hospitals in Bournemouth, Poole and Christchurch.
Compared to a three-bedroom home, we could provide electricity for over 8,000 three-bedroom detached houses for a whole year, just based on the electrical consumption within UHD.
This is an area patients never see. One of many plant rooms where essential ventilation for operating theatres comes from. It costs a huge amount of money to run, and that's rising fast.
My budget report shows a deficit this year of well over £1 million. I have to try and balance that budget. I can't turn the power off, I can't turn the heating off, and I can't turn the water off. What we can do is reduce as much demand on those utilities as we can.
Heating, lighting and the vast array of machines working day and night to make us better all uses an extraordinary amount of gas and electricity. Across Bournemouth, Poole and Christchurch, the energy bill last year was more than £4 million. It's expected that will rise to over £14 million next year, an increase of nearly £10 million. Elsewhere, Hampshire Hospitals says its bill last year for Basingstoke, Winchester and Andover hospitals was just over £4 million. That's forecast to rise to almost £10 million next year. In the long term, these new energy-efficient buildings in Bournemouth will help, but there's a cap on how much can be spent as the government sets a fixed limit on what money goes where. For those who need to travel, there's greater exposure to the rising price of fuel. On top of gas and electric bills, Wiltshire Air Ambulance is dealing with a hike in aviation fuel costs.
We've seen with the helicopter, our price per litre for the fuel has gone up around about double in the last year. So it was around 43p. We're now hitting near 83p in the space of 12 months. We're very fortunate at the moment we're locked in our energy up until May next year, but then we're going to see at the moment our bills go from 20,000 to 100,000. So that's five-fold increase for energy bills. So all of that kind of puts the pressure on the charity for its life-saving work.
And how long has it been like that?
One thing everyone agrees on is that patient care always comes first. On a departmental level, here in Bournemouth Hospital's Diabetes and Endocrine Centre, there's a daily balancing act between being mindful of those rising costs while still maintaining high standards.
The MRI scan, we use a great deal of electricity and we think very carefully about whether we genuinely need a scan. We never want clinical care to be compromised, but if we can use clinical skills instead to decide whether we need an extra scan or whether we can use a longer interval between scans, then that can make a real difference.
For everyone, rising inflation is an extra burden. Everything they buy here is going up, from medical kit to building supplies. It all amounts to further challenges on an already struggling system. Without major financial help, that's adding to the pressure this winter. Alistair Fee, BBC South Today.